Lot and the Low Kings of Scotland sat in meeting with the Low Kings of England upon one of those hills that faced the city of Westminster. In truth, Lot and his Scottish Low Kings were not alone. He also had with him King Rience of Wales, King Mark of Cornwall, as well as a number of Low English kings, including the king with the 100 knights. What they wanted was simple. They wanted Arthur to recognize that they were their own independent countries, that they did not have to recognize the High King of Britain, and that in exchange, no war would exist between them. The Low Kings of England were not happy with this, least of all Ector of North Galia. For long years, he and his people had suffered from the end of trade between Scotland and their own kingdom, and so he demanded that Scotland and all the other Low Kings bend the knee and form an alliance under the High King of England, where everyone would have equal say in the goings-on of Britain, and where trade could once again open up between the kingdoms. Lot said no. Merlin stepped up. King Lot, he says, you must understand that as a united Britain, we have so much that we can offer for each other. It will be better for peace and for the prosperity and the stability of our realm. Oh, save it, said Lot. You, Merlin, or what, an emissary of Avalon? You have no voice in this council, he said. He does, said Ector. Although Avalon is its own independent country and does not recognize a high king, we have chosen to allow Merlin, on behalf of Avalon, to act as chancellor in these matters. Though Avalon is not able to vote in the future of Britain, it is decided that they shall mediate, for they are truly neutral. Truly neutral, did you say? And a man stepped forward. He was short, stubby, red-skinned. His name was Rience of Wales. Avalon is not neutral. I've shared borders with Avalon for years. They have no desire to involve themselves in my kingdom, no desire to help us out, no desire for trade or anything else. And yet, cross the border in the other direction to the lands of Leodegrace, and all of a sudden Avalon is offering aid to Leodegrace. Avalon is teaming up with Leodegrace. Avalon is marrying the daughter of its lady to Leodegrace. Avalon is not neutral. Enough, said Merlin. This is getting us nowhere. The point, said Lot, is that we will not recognize a high king. However, we will not make a war upon you either if you recognize our own independent sovereignty away from this, what? This masquerade, he said. This is no masquerade, said Merlin. Enough! Enough, said Lot. This boy you have here, do we even know that he is the son of Uther and Igraine? Is it not just as likely that Igraine and Gawain produced a son on their own, and that it was just convenient timing for Uther? There is no proof that this is Uther's heir. What you have here is heir to Cornwall. And not even that, for Cornwall was given to King Mark following on from the war against Gawain. This is but a kitchen boy. Take that back, said Arthur, standing up now. You take that back. I am a High King. Boy, you are nothing. I'm not nothing, said Arthur, and I know what you are. You're the person who financed the war against my mother. And what of it? Said Lot. What of it? Said Arthur. What of it is that I demand that you and all of your low kings bend the knee to this realm. Otherwise you shall face our wrath. For too long I have seen what the poverty has come. For too long I have seen what has befallen Novum Castrum because you closed down your borders. That will no longer exist. In the name of the people of Britain, I claim your lands within this realm. Oh boy, said Lot. I believe you have a round table to consider, and that you might not be quite aware what all-out war is between our kingdoms. Is this what you low kings want? War? Can you really afford it? Can you afford the bloodshed, the cost? We can. Hector stood up. I support this decision. For too long you've threatened our borders. I won't have you on there anymore. United we stand, or else we will conquer all. King Evelake rose and said he too stood by this decision, as did King Ban, as did King Blobras. The rest followed suit. Lot snarled. Fine, he said. Fine. Then we disagree. When war comes, he said, turning to Arthur, remember, boy, you had a chance to walk away from this. I'll remind you of that again before the end. And Lot and his men turned and walked out. As they left, Merlin turned to Arthur. What have you done? War against the northern Scottish kings? He was right, said Hector. Even if we'd have gone by their terms, it would have been worse for us in the long run. Rience over in Wales is bloody expansionist enough. And Lot, do you think he would have sat behind Hadrian's wall for long before he came down? No. If they will not stand with us, and they stand against us, and we need to be prepared for that. But peace, said Merlin. We are meant to do this for peace. Oh, come, said Hector. You can't have peace unless you're willing to face war. Very well, said Merlin. Very well. Then if war is coming between the Scottish kings and Wales and Cornwall and some of the scattered bands of England, then we cannot rest here in the south. We must move the capital of the realm. We must head north. Arthur's army travelled north, towards the old Viking town of Yorick, or Camelot, as it was known. That town had been given to King Nenters of Scotland after he and the other Low Kings had aided Uther in the war against Cornwall. Now Merlin had made the decision to claim it back for the realm and to let that be Arthur's new capital. To let that once great northern town to be the centre of his power, so that he would be in a better position to dispatch his armies if need be to face off against any Scottish offensive. It was Merlin's hope that by taking such a northern outpost and by holding it with such a strong band of men, that Lot would be deterred from making any further advances against them, and that, in time, Lot would agree to bend the knee. As the army approached, they caught sight of a small band of men led by King Nenters fleeing out of the city and heading towards the coast. Evidently, Nenters of Scotland did not intend to put up a fight. "Let me head after them," said Ector. "Chase them down. Take them out now before they can cause any trouble for us." "No," said Merlin. "No, they're heading towards Scarborough. Let them go, and once they reach the castle of Scarborough, let them stay there. We don't want to rise the anger of the Scottish kings. Just show them our strength. Follow them by all means, Ector, but don't assault them. Don't approach them. Let them take the castle there and keep an eye upon them. No doubt they'll want to send a message up to Scotland. We won't be able to stop them from doing that, but don't allow them to come back and attack us unawares." "It will be done," said Ector, who took a band of men and headed off after Nenters. For Merlin and the rest of the Low Kings and Arthur, they were able to take the city without fight or incident. The people themselves were bemused as to what was taking place, in fact. All they had seen was their Lord Nenters leaving and another set of lords approaching. They had not yet been made aware that a High King had been made. And when they were aware of it, and when they realized that the High King was taking up residence within their town, then were celebrations made. Then word began to spread throughout the city. Taverns opened, people drank and cried out, expecting wealth to be flooding in, and sure enough, there were plenty of soldiers and knights looking for a place to sleep and a place to eat and drink. Arthur, Merlin, and the Low Kings, though, rised above all of this as they headed towards the city's castle and its keep. "What's this?" said Arthur. "This? This can't be it." Camelot was an impressive city, one of the largest cities in the north, in fact, a huge centre of trade, and had been for centuries. But as a military power, it had fallen behind. The castle itself was but a small series of walls and towers and a central bailey at the middle of it. Nothing impressive, nothing befitting a king, nothing on the scale of Westminster's palace, nothing even compared to the castle of King Ector that Arthur had grown up in. It was small, drafty, grim. The bailey itself was barely big enough to fit all of the Low Kings that were with Arthur inside of it. Arthur turned to Merlin. No, this can't be it. We can't stay here. This is no castle." "It will do," said Merlin as he turned to Arthur. "We need a position in the north. This is a position in the north." "Well, let us go to Novum Castrum then," said Arthur. "There's a strong castle there." "No, it's too close to the northern border with Scotland," said Merlin. "Here we are within a day's travel to go and assist them if need be given to them. We're also safe, so that if any attack does come down from Scotland, we'll have good warning of it. This is what we have, my lord. We will have to make do with it. I appreciate it is not the most attractive of castles, but perhaps in having something that is austere, that the people can relate to, it will warm their hearts to know that the king is willing to face austerity along with them." "It's not that," said Arthur, "but just look at it. We've got an army, but there's no place in this castle for the army to stay. If an attack comes, where will they be? They won't be here to defend us. We need something better." "He's right," the Low Kings said in agreement. King Ban and Blobris chief amongst them. Austerity is one thing, but you need to think about the protection of a city. This is a great city, and yes, its walls are strong, but the castle? We need more than just this for a castle, for a true castle, one fitting of a high king and his retainers. Well, said Merlin, I suppose that in the future we can look to expanding it. We need to expand it now, said Arthur. We need to expand it now. My lord, said Merlin, it will take months to understand actually how much money you have coming in to arrange the coffers for the city, the proper taxations to be put in place. There's a lot that has been left to ruin in the absence of a high king. Raise the taxes here, said Arthur. Raise the taxes here. You have enough people in this city. Raise the taxes here to pay for the improvements to this castle, and do it at once. I am High King, their High King, and I am offering them protection. But they have to improve this castle for me. Merlin turns it, no. Raising taxes too high was how Uther met his end. Well, I have an army stationed here and all around me. Is that not right? Arthur said to the Low Kings. The Low Kings nodded their heads. Aye, we will protect you, my lord. And you will each contribute towards the building of this castle, I take it? They were slower to answer that, but there was a general nod. You would not deny the High King a safe place, would you? And indeed, if you are to be my counsel around the table, then you need a safe place to be in and to do business. You need a castle with apartments fitting for you, surely. You need a castle that's able to protect you and your men. You need this just as much as I do, said Arthur. They nodded. Good, said Arthur. Then let's go and have the taxes increased. I want this castle to be my own. And he turned to Merlin and he said that. And send up to Novum Castrum. Have Alice brought down here. She may be just a kitchen girl, but we have an army and lords here that need feeding. And she is an excellent cook. Surely you can't disagree with that. Merlin approached Arthur in his chambers. He stepped inside, bowed to him. My lord, he said. Yes, said Arthur. Is it done? Have you sent for her? My lord, may I introduce you to someone? What? Said Arthur. You are aware that King Uriens has pledged his allegiance to you? Yes, yes, said Arthur. I've seen Uriens. Well, I would like to introduce you to the wife of King Uriens, Morgane le Fay. Morgane, he said, as a woman stepped into the room, is your sister by Igraine and Gawain. Arthur looked up. Morgane was a tall, slender woman, her skin perfectly white, hair black and straight, and it fell past her shoulders. She looked at Arthur with a smile upon her face and a long finger pressed against her cheek, as if she was some kind of particularly savage animal, sizing up whether she should slay him now or play with him for a while first. Greetings, brother, she said. I am at your service. I didn't know I had a sister, said Arthur. No, said Merlin, you wouldn't have known that you had a sister. And yet I am aware that perhaps it might help you to have some counsel, not just from the Low Kings, but perhaps also from your own family, those who have come from the same place as you, and yet been brought up in the manner that I would have wished you to be brought up in, my lord, and so who might be able to share some of their lessons with you. What's it about? said Arthur. Merlin turned to Morgane. My lord the king thinks that it is wise to bring forth a girl, a kitchen girl, from Novum Castrum, with whom I understand he has romantic aspirations. Yes, said Arthur, I'm going to marry her. Morgane looked at him. Oh, brother, she said. Poor brother. Now I see why you brought me in, Merlin. Brother, she said, sitting on the bed and looking at him, I'm afraid that that's no longer your decision to make. Marrying, that is. But I'm High King, said Arthur. If I'm High King, if you're High King, then you have the least decision of all. Why, I and my sisters were married off after the castle of Tintagel was taken by Uther. We had no choice in it. We were all told who we would marry. That's what marriage is. Marriage is a political alliance, something that you do in exchange for something else. And your marriage, he said, that's a powerful, powerful weapon. You want to use it well. The Low Kings will want to use it well. I'm sorry, but that is not your decision to make. I'm sure if Merlin has his way, you'll end up being married to some daughter of King Lot, and in doing so you will end up forging some form of alliance between the Slow Kings of Scotland and the rest of the realm. And yes, said Merlin, that would be the plan. Well, with so much at stake then, said Morgane le Fay, you really can't afford to have this girl here. It will be easiest upon her if you let her go, Arthur. Let her go. It is not your decision to make any more. And Arthur looked at her and at Merlin. Merlin nodded. It's true, my lord. Our only hope for peace is perhaps to marry you to some daughter of King Lot. Otherwise the bloodshed will be terrible. And indeed, there's nothing to say that she will be safe during such bloodshed, my lord. The safest thing you can do for her now is to let her get on with her life, away from you. The forces of King Lot waited until night before approaching Hadrian's wall. They did so on foot. There were no horses. Their swords were painted black, and word had been sent to all the villages and hovels along the way to douse their lights. Tonight, the north border of Scotland was in darkness. The only lights were those of the guard posts along Hadrian's wall and the glow of the city of Novum Castrum behind it. A knight named Sir Maleagant led that army as it made its way, hidden by darkness in small, broken bands. He was the fiercest and most ruthless knight in all of Scotland. A butcher, brutal in his nature. It was said that he had come over from Denmark originally, was a savage man, known to take pleasure in the taking of life. He was the perfect choice to lead this mission. The bands spread out as they approached Hadrian's wall. Nothing particularly large, nothing conspicuous, and quietly they climbed their way, using spikes and grips, up onto the wall. The men there weren't really expecting an attack. It was their own mistake. Knives were drawn, swords were pulled out, blades stuck into chests or over necks. Men fell without a sound being cried out, and Maleagant and his men moved along the walls, heading towards the gatehouse on the north side of Novum Castrum. There they quickly moved through it, slaying men right, left, centre. Cries were called out, but by the time those cries were called out, it was too late. Maleagant's men were too strongly embedded within that gatehouse. People who came through were being slain as they came through doors. Guards fell dead. And as the great doors that separated Novum Castrum from Scotland were forced open from within, then a huge mass of Scottish knights came through into the city, crying out, swords raised, to stab into any man or woman who got in their way. The guards of Novum Castrum did not know what had hit them. They quickly turned and ran from this onslaught as it approached. They were so outnumbered, and flames were struck and brands were brought out now. Flames thrown into the hovels, into the slums. The fires spread quickly. The people screamed, all clambering for the front of the city to try and escape over the Tyne and into the countryside. The guards there, overwhelmed by the mass of people trying to escape from the blood and the death and the flames, threw those gates open as the people came through. And as they came through, Scottish knights hidden amongst that rabble came and broke out of them to slay the guards on duty there and to keep those doors open so that the rest of the Scottish knights could then go and move out into the English countryside. It was chaos, it was carnage, and in the castle above Novum Castrum, the guards there closed the doors. They readied themselves in the keep, ready for battle. They heard the sound of screaming and crying and smiting in the streets. They heard the approach of knights now. They heard them crying out in their threats. They heard them beating upon the doors. They heard wood and steel being ripped apart as the knights came in, and they faced off valiantly but futilely against those knights. And in the kitchens, Alice, beloved of Arthur, pulled a kitchen knife and pointed it at the door and waited. The screams in the castle died out. The sounds of metal on metal died out. It was silent, other than the footsteps, the sound of footsteps, and the door being thrown open, and a man stepping through, 6'5" and wide, with long hair, Sir Maleagant's, blood all over his body. He looked at Alice, sword in his hand, and smiled amongst the carnage. Alice cried out and ran at him with a kitchen knife in her hand, crying out in bloody murder, ready to strike. Maleagant struck one blow with his sword, and Alice was rendered in two, dead upon the floor. And St. Maleagant laughed. Hello ladies and gents, I hope you enjoyed tonight's tale. The best is yet to come though, so make sure that you've hit subscribe on the YouTube channel. If you could tell someone else about the show, I'd really appreciate it. Thanks.